What's up, everybody? We're
Welcome.
back on Word of Mouth, Birmingham. Today is the day after Christmas. And if you're listening right now on the drive to your grandma's house, as that's what I'll be doing right now.
I'm on my way to Chattanooga right now.
I just want to bid you a very Merry Christmas. I hope your Nike Shocks are nice and laced up right now. Your brand new shiny neon green Nike Shocks.
I hope you got a new Aritzia sweatsuit set.
Bob, what was your favorite gift you ever got when you were a kid and you either did do Santa or didn't do Santa? No judgment.
Yeah, Santa was around.
That's what I'm talking
Favorite gifts probably was the year that there was a big, I mean, it was small now, but to a small kid it was big.
Sure.
A red hockey, like PVC hockey net.
Oh, yeah.
Not under the tree, but next to the tree.
would be a
We had
small
like
one.
a very, I had a buddy who had a cul-de-sac and like a nice, flat, like clean, like slick blacktop driveway, and we
Yeah,
would
he did.
do like rollerblade hockey a lot. And at home, we had a small garage, but it was like that slick concrete, So I
Yeah.
would like skate around in that and like knuckle puck
Oh, yeah.
into the cubbies of my dad's like storage thing. So one year I got like a really awesome hockey net, and we had
That's
a good time
so
with it.
fun.
Mars, what about
Second below that was
Oh,
the
yeah.
N64.
N64.
Yeah,
Mm.
Dang, bro. You might be older than I think you are.
I'm old, man.
That's all. What game did you have with N64?
I forget which one I got right away, but the three that were like on rotation were GoldenEye, Mario Kart, and Super Mario 3.
Of course.
Fantastic.
I this Christmas season, I bought my brother a PlayStation 5 remote
Mhm.
so that he could bring it home so that we could play NCAA 2026. That's what I'm going to
Heck
be
yeah.
into. I don't play video games at all in my life,
Mhm.
but for whatever reason, that's sounding really fun to me.
Yeah.
So this episode, as it will come out on 2026, hopefully I will have logged many hours beating my brothers in video games this Christmas. So I resonate with the N64.
Mhm.
Mars, what about you? What's your favorite Christmas gift you've ever gotten?
I know if I get this wrong, then when I see my parents, my mom will correct me. But I think I got my first like sick, cool mountain bike for Christmas. I'm pretty sure it
Yeah.
was a Christmas gift. And I remember it was a black Giant with like green text on it.
Oh, that's sick.
And I probably put like 2,000 miles on that bike. I
Wow.
rode that bike a lot. So that's probably mine. What about
That's
you?
big. I remember coming downstairs one time, and my parents, I have two brothers and one sister, but this gift didn't really interest my sister too much. But we had a playroom in the basement, as many 90s kids did. And I came downstairs, and in the center of the basement playroom was a blue Hot Wheels table with a
Oh,
bunch of like
yeah.
Hot Wheel. It was like drawers underneath, and it was like tracks were in the drawers. It was like a storage thing. And I just like I just made like infinite Hot Wheel courses all the time for like that Christmas morning high lasted a long time. I remember,
Yeah.
like it was pretty awesome.
That's fantastic.
But anyways, there's your festive little December 2026 update. The Bob that answered earlier is today's guest. It is Bob Miller. We are really happy that you're on, man. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Happy to be here.
Bob Miller is a photographer and videography. What would you call? What title would you give yourself if you had to make a LinkedIn? What kind of title would you make?
It's funny you say that because I was looking at that just the other day thinking, golly, it's time to like step it up a little bit with like outward expressions of
Oh, I
what
gotcha.
I'm doing. I think a lot of times it depends on the context.
Sure.
For certain people and clients and folks that I work with, both on like the commissioning side, but just people that I work with on projects I'm doing, it's like just photographer sometimes. Sometimes that's just like I would probably say director, DP.
Okay.
I do occasionally like do cinematography work for people where I'm just DP or director of photography for that
Cool.
role, but more times than not, I'm sort of the person that's directing whatever it is we're trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
And usually also operating the camera. So I'd probably say director first, because I think the visual component's like secondary to that layer of decision making that comes first. But a filmmaker, I guess, would be the more broad term that encompasses all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, you, I think in a way, you're one of the most beautiful filmmakers around in Birmingham right now that I've come across. Obviously, there's a lot of people in Birmingham who are talented and skillful at making films, but I think the content that we've seen that you've made, or the substance of your films, is like incredibly thought-provoking. And I'm not the most well-versed person in like film in Birmingham right now, or photography in Birmingham, so you could probably recommend and give a lot of praise to a lot of people. But today's not about them. Today's about you, Bob. So I'm really, really excited to talk more about it, more about that. So I don't know. I guess like to start somewhere. When did you get into it all? Like, what made you want to pick up a camera for the first time?
Mm-hmm. I think some of my like earliest like memories relating to like making things with cameras go back to when I was in high school. There was like it was called Advantage. It was like a class, like an elective you could take, where this was 2000. I guess that was probably 2002.
Let's go.
Yeah, so it was like I had no interest at the time in doing that, but it sounded like a fun elective, and we would basically like be given a camera, and we would go out and make just the most god awful advertisements for like local businesses.
Yeah,
and have other assignments where we were like learning how to, ingest the tape and things like this. And this was like at the tail end of like pre sort of digital, but I didn't really know. I wasn't into that world. It's funny looking back now. I had like people I knew in high school that were into film and like, all of that at the time. But I just kind of took it because it sounded interesting, and moved on from it without really like that moving the needle for me at all. It was like, that was a cool experience, but no one had really helped connect the dots for me at the time that you could actually have a path in that world. So, I guess more of the substantive like influences came in college. I went to school first. I ended up going to Stanford in Birmingham.
Let's go.
Where are you
from? Kentucky.
Okay.
Kentucky. Really chose Birmingham because it was like the right distance away, decent sized city, and like I got a good opportunity like scholarship wise to go to Stanford. So it like fit. It checked boxes, and it was a good experience. Like had a great experience at Stanford.
Did you play on any of the sports teams?
No.
Okay.
Not like officially, but I like played soccer, and everybody plays ultimate frisbee at Stanford. I'm assuming still. Is that still?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's pretty much a thing. Yeah. I think ultimate frisbee is probably a little bit less niche nowadays because there's like professional teams and stuff like that. But that was a joke because you said you got a pretty good scholarship. I don't know if you're like D1 athlete or something like that.
I was just a nerd. So I ended up, I went in pre-med just not knowing what I wanted to do. Influenced by a few people and experiences, ended up, kind of this circuitous route to graphic design major. Loving it, really enjoying it, because I was interested in art as well. My sister studied like studio art in college.
Cool.
She's older than me, so I had like that
at?
influence. Belmont in Nashville.
Awesome.
I was really intrigued by graphic design and really enjoying it. And through those courses, kind of was, in a peripheral sort of way, like exposed to like photography as a means of like communication. That's like an intentional act.
Sure.
A creative endeavor. There are professionals working in this field. That's sort of like my mind was opening up to this a little bit. Simultaneously, some friends of mine kind of started getting involved with local photographers, and I basically decided I'm kind of interested in this. I was also interested in journalism, and I was doing what's called a cognate, which is like a kind of not really a minor, but close to it in journalism. But Stanford's like photography courses were pretty limited, so what I ended up doing was taking, like, I needed some more credits, so I took a couple intro Photo J classes at Western Kentucky University, which is
Go Hilltoppers.
yeah, it's like half hour from where I grew up, which worked out great. Did them during the summer, and like my experience in some of those classes combined with like an independent study I took in photo history, where I was just like fascinated with the history of photography as a medium, and also in like documentary work in general. Those two sort of experiences around the same time like really set a hook in me for like just being incredibly fascinated with like documentary photography and its potential as a medium, and like what it's used for, historically has been used for, and like shaping the current moments of our time, and also like in the present sense of like what it, it seemed like a really interesting path to be the one kind of responsible for like how people interpret an event or like a group of people or a topic.
Yeah.
So I was really drawn to it, like philosophically, theoretically, but also like I just loved doing it. Like cameras were fascinating to me.
Sure.
And like I just like was a nerd about them. And I think it was just kind of like a perfect storm of the right influences from like the school side. My friend Caleb that you were talking about earlier, like was assisting Brian Johnson, who's well known in Birmingham at the time.
Legend.
And I think he was my first, Brian might laugh, he's a friend now, but like first person that sort of like the light bulb went off, like, oh, like he's a person that makes money, like earns a living making pictures, like that's a possibility.
Yeah.
So it didn't like, I decided not to like change my college trajectory. Like I stayed with graphic design because I was enjoying that too. But it was like pretty soon, maybe like my junior year, I was kind of realizing like, I think I'd rather pursue a path that was like visual storytelling with, cameras more so than like being a graphic designer. I was fine in graphic design. I like had a few clients out of school, but like, it wasn't like, it didn't feel like and I don't use the word calling really, but like it didn't feel like the path, but tangentially related to it, like very relatable skill sets. I still like am grateful that I stayed the course on that front because I use those skills a lot too.
Yeah. I think that what you're talking about of photography and videography through like as a means of communication is a really beautiful thing. Was there anything during that time that you interacted with personally that or I guess like any films that you watched that really deeply inspired you? Like how did you even interact with those mediums in the first place?
Yeah. Well, maybe a good one. There's probably several there, but a good one that might be relevant because it sort of bridges the two worlds. So I didn't get into film for a little while, but it wasn't until I like went to grad school a couple years after undergrad that like sort of hit that world heavy. But a film that I watched, it was like hugely influential for me, like on the still photography side, but also like I watched it and thought that was a cool documentary. It'd be cool to make those one day too. Was a film called I think it's called War Photographer, but it's basically about James Noctway, who was one of the people, and the reason it was really influential on me was he was one of the figures that I went on this like deep dive on this independent photo history, independent study that I did, where I was just reading lots of books about the history of photography, and I was like really curious about that, and that sort of like transitioned into this study of like contemporary photographers across different fields, and mostly in like the photojournalism documentary world, because that was like an area of interest of mine, not so much like fine art, a little bit of that, but like you couldn't go through that without James Noctway showing up in that.
Yeah.
And he's still alive and doing incredible work still, but he's sort of like one of the most prominent like contemporary documentarians, photojournalists that back he's older and still working, but I think if my history is correct, like he's after there was this era with like Life magazine and that world of photojournalism where you had these like this, you still find copies like at Read Books and others, but like this huge magazine that's like literally this tall with these full spread photo essays, like W. Gene Smith, some of these other guys who were like a generation before Noctway. He's like kind of called like the father of modern photojournalism. So I was reading about these guys. Anyway, huge tangent. I watched this film that basically this guy just follows him around on assignments, and it was fascinating to watch because I was like in my own way, photographing like people I knew in my small town in Glasgow, Kentucky, kind of like figuring out what this practice was about, of like what's it like to represent somebody truly over the course of like a long-term study of this person or this place or whatever. And I was kind of doing my own projects, but it was really fun and like informative and like just entertaining, all the things to watch this film that really just went out to the field with the guy who's like the master of the craft, and just watch him make decisions like, why is he standing here? Why is he shooting here and not there? And how's he reacting to a space? And also hearing him in interviews like talk about his experience and practice. So that was like really influential on me. It's sort of like, I think I stumbled on that film right as I was finishing undergrad, and was trying to negotiate like what's the path forward. Like I was photographing weddings, and I was fine at it and doing good, but like I knew that I didn't want that to be like my like long term. Like I didn't want to land there. So as I was trying to, set these like stakes in the ground, like that'd be cool to be doing that one day. It was a good sort of reference point for me. Although like the traditional path like was completely being obliterated at that point in time, like the traditional like photojournalists like career path was not really, it was sort of on its way out.
Sure.
At that particular time, so it ended up taking a different direction. But I think like that ethos and like methodology and like way of thinking as a storyteller is like kind of was foundational.
Yeah. When you say that the traditional photojournalist was being destroyed at that time, what do you mean?
Just like print media going away.
Okay.
And so like for the longest time, if I was me like 40 years ago maybe, my understanding of what would have been a typical trajectory would be to intern at a paper, then work at said paper, maybe stay at said paper for a long time, or go out on your own and freelance for magazines, things like that, as you like develop your portfolio. But that's just not really the model that works.
Sure. Anymore. Whenever physicals don't exist anymore, I'm tracking.
Yeah, and like just staff positions in that field, sort of just were like dissipating at that time. And during the time I was in grad school, in a visual communications school, a journalism school in 2010 and 11, it was like they were clearly trying to negotiate their recommendations for their students. But I thought like Bruce Strong and some of the others that were like really influential at Syracuse, they were wise in that they knew that the most important thing you could come away with was being a equipped storyteller. Yeah. Even though like sort of the typical like plugs you might try to fill students in or like graduates in was changing and shifting, like that skill set was still valuable. It was like the market was trying to figure out where the access point was for that skill set. Sure. And it's kind of more on you, I guess, to figure that out. Yeah. Whereas like the channels were a little more clearly defined, like in previous decades, I think, for that path.
Yeah. It's also like so cool that you just happened to be in Birmingham at that time and you like came across Caleb Chansey and Brian Johnson, who were just like still doing it. And Brandon. I mean,
they were
like sort of still doing it, not in photography, but
they just happened to be my friends, And Carrie Norton has to be mentioned, Jason Wallace too. Like Brian, Carrie, and Jason were like sharing a studio at the time. Yeah. And Carrie ended up being most influential because I did like an internship with him. Yeah. I still think Carrie is like probably one of the best photographers like in town. Like he's incredible. But it's like I just got more curious about it because I saw Caleb with a backpack full of cameras all of a sudden. Sure. He's like assisting this guy, and now he has his own business going, and I thought, well, maybe this could be a thing.
Yeah, yeah.
So I reached out to Carrie and just asked him if I could intern.
Yeah.
And Carrie was like,
Yeah.
I don't know what the hell we're going to do, but yeah. So I just like spent the summer with him.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And learned a bunch. Mostly, I learned a ton creatively, technically, but mostly it was like the confidence boost of like being around people who were doing it.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
like, seeing that it's possible
Yeah.
was like good for me.
I think that's so cool whenever you're around people. Just that I feel like that seems so simple, and but then when you consider the fact that you're a human, it's just like so relatable. Of you don't really believe in something until you see someone do it, like with your own eyes. I think that was something we were talking about with Kristen earlier this afternoon. Whenever we were talking to her about restauranteering is like just getting out there and like believing in yourself is a process. And she was talking about how like the two feel like separate ideas, like the like self-trustability and the earning of self-trustability are like not, even though one took for the other, or one was necessary for the other, you know what I mean? They're also still like kind of married in the same way. So that's like kind of providential, if I may. That's kind of cool that you know, in your like world, in your universe, you kind of came across these like guys who are all still doing the thing.
Yeah.
So like originally on in your career, like when you said you went to grad school, like did that come right after Stanford, or like what were like the initial steps like getting into this world like for you?
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting talking about the trust side, because I think like if I look back the earliest years for me, if there's like a singular emotion to like define it, it was more like fear.
Sure.
So like there wasn't a lot of trust early on.
Yeah, yeah.
I felt like I really had to like prove to myself that it was possible to like sort of sustain myself doing this work. If I was going to break out of what I knew was like sort of working, it wasn't like personality wise my like path. It just sort of became something that I like paid bills with right out of school, which was shooting weddings and like personal assignments. And like there's great careers to be made in that world. You can do good work, but it just wasn't like something I chose. I just sort of started doing. And I wanted to do this other type of work. But I was really afraid to like try it. And really like it was that combined with uncertainty of like what is the path. Yeah. Because I studied, and the bit of experience I had was in the small market of Birmingham, and the classes I took at Stanford and a couple at Western, but some big questions of like how do I break into this world? So and at the same time, so I met my wife Allison like as I was finishing undergrad. We got married a year minus a day after we met, and we're like kind of knew we were going to start a family and all that. So there was like these big, like, I don't know, like self-doubt, like whatever I'm doing, I got to figure it out quick, and I need to make the right decision, which is more pressure on myself than I needed to put. But like, it was also like we were just being scrappy. And
what was your wife doing at that time?
She was in grad school at UAB. Doing public health, maternal and child health. And she's a doula and a midwifery assistant and works in the birth world in Birmingham. Cool. It's like pretty well known in that space. So it's but she was equally figuring out like her steps. You know, we were two young people figuring out.
Yeah. I mean, no idea what the heck you're gonna do. Yeah.
Right. And I think it's funny if you ask her, like, I like very sort of naively just like pulled the trigger for both of us, thinking that it was like what we needed to do to go to grad school. Yeah. For me. And again, I think a lot of that was just fear-based. I felt like I felt unequipped, and I felt like I needed to have some guidance for like how to step forward in that career, and like very aggressively like researched possible programs. And there were some good schools, and interviewed over the phone with some, and was really just kind of taken with some of the conversations I had with folks who became like my professors / mentors at Stanford. Oh, cool. At Syracuse.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, so that's why I ended up, choosing that program, because I felt like it was really going to be a place that, from talking to other graduates too, would like set you up well. Yeah. Both in terms of like a portfolio of work, but also like sort of industry awareness
Cool.
and like connections, and it definitely was that. So
Really?
it was a great experience. It was like a very condensed, difficult time, for like a lot of reasons. But in
Did you
the
move up there?
we did, yeah.
Oh,
It was
wow.
like a year and 3/4 basically.
Cool.
But to your question about like that experience as it relates to like my like work, it was like a really good one.
Yeah. Huh.
Very focused
So
time.
Syracuse has a good photography graduate program.
They do, yeah.
Wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I know
it's-
literally nothing about Syracuse except for Carmelo Anthony.
Yeah.
See.
They have a. I was in the visual communications, the SI Newhouse School, which is like
Okay.
they're kind of more broadly known for like what's the guy's name? Bob Costas, I think, went there.
Okay.
Like famous like news broadcast type people, but
Oh,
their
cool.
visual journalism department is really strong too. You can also do the sort of fine arts, television, radio, and film world, which is a separate department altogether.
Gotcha.
But there was a little bit of overlap there on the film side.
Sure.
And part of why I thought that program would be good was because they were one of the few that were very, very heavily emphasizing. You know, universities called it multimedia at the time if you were a photo guy. But basically that just meant like being equipped as a still photographer to also do film and video
Oh, cool.
and understand storytelling, which is a totally different animal if you're just a still photographer.
Yeah.
But I think that was hugely influential because I left that experience with like a little bit of a portfolio in film also.
Yeah, yeah.
And some of those like early exploratory pieces were sort of the sort of the basis for early commissions once I got back to Birmingham.
Gotcha.
And like the first and only like job I've had, which took us back here to Birmingham.
Yeah, talk to us about that. Like, what are the original projects you worked on in your career?
Mm-hmm. So I think maybe there were like two. It's funny like how all these things just sort of are connected and relate. So maybe one of the more influential, or maybe like trajectory setting projects early on was what became my grad school thesis project, which, and I'll tell you the backstory about it, but wouldn't have been my grad school thesis project if I hadn't met Caleb and been, you know, a reckless college student without, you know, doesn't think through things all the way. But like basically I remember sitting on the back of a truck bed, I think it was Caleb's truck, I don't know, outside the Phoenix building, which is where I was interning with Carrie, and saying like, this is around the time where I was like really interested in doing longer form documentary photography. And had done like a couple little projects with like some friends of mine that I'd known who weren't like well older than me in Kentucky, and just shooting things. You know, the guy that held up signs on Lakeshore, like stuff like that.
Sure.
But I really felt like I wanted to have like more sort of invested projects to cut my teeth on and just practice. And I wanted it to be somewhere else, not really knowing. And Caleb was like, well, my brother's on the board of a nonprofit and they do like aid work in Africa. You should talk to Matt. So
No way.
I really like, within I think a month, like I was in Matt's basement and we were like talking and he was like, yeah, just come. So that trip, that was one of those scenarios where I really was like, I was like nervous to do it, but decided to do it, bought my own ticket, bought a bunch of film for my cheap Nikon camera and my 2 lenses.
Yeah.
And just went over, and basically said, hey, like y'all can use whatever I make, but can I just come?
Yeah, yeah.
That's how I pitched it. Like, could I just come and do some work for y'all?
Sure.
And, you know, I'll get myself over there. Just kind of hook me up with somebody to be with.
Yeah.
That entire thing went south because, ironically, I happened to land in Nairobi, Kenya, the day before the most like significant post-electoral crisis that country had ever seen like unfolded the next day. It's total happenstance. But the irony there is I was like sort of discovering this interest in like journalism.
Yeah.
And 2 days out, like all of our plans went to shit because like we had intentions to go to this part of Sudan and other places with this nonprofit, and all that went out the window because the country was sort of in crisis mode. But I'm sitting there with all this film and a local Kenyan guy whose house I'm staying in, and we're like not a mile from where most of this like significant protesting and rioting is happening.
Yeah.
Wow.
And like all the guys from like Reuters, AP, get like all the like stringers from
the big
all
ones,
over are like literally arriving to document this thing. So I end up just spending my entire time just running around Nairobi, shadowing, just like showing up and following these like professional photojournalists.
No way.
With my like one camera, my like 50 and 28 millimeter lens. This stuff's not really up, but I'll show you just for context some of those pictures that no one saw because like I brought them back. I was there for 3 weeks. This was a news event. Like I was in the middle of like the international news, but like I'm shooting film with like no connections to a lab, not coming back to the States for 2.5 weeks.
Yeah.
So what ended up happening was it was just like an incredible like learning experience for me to like watch these people work, and also like, holy smokes, if I wasn't sure at that point, like it got back from that trip and I was like, this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
You know, because it was something exhilarating about like people want to know what's happening, and like I'm the translator, right? Like I'm the person there who has the privilege to see something and to like not only see it, but the responsibility to like translate that in a way that people like ideally are not only like in a factual sense see what's happening, but have some sort of emotional response to it. And there's conversations there to be had about like what's the role of journalism and storytelling. I think you can't extract like the sense of responsibility over it as the person who's like framing a scene. Like you're definitely influencing how that's perceived.
Yeah.
But I kind of liked that. I liked the subjectivity of that.
Yeah.
And so anyway, long story short, like it was a crazy time. I came back and like those pictures that never saw the light of day from like a publishing perspective became sort of like this strange portfolio that I had that other people saw. This random band called Paper Route in Nashville that Caleb convinced to come down and play a show at our house in Lakeshore Drive saw those pictures and were like, a month later their agent was like, do you want to go on tour and like follow the band? Because of this
because of that
picture.
Random photo.
Yeah, I remember JT Daly, the singer, like just like looking through them being like, and no one saw these. They were just like, I happened to be able to be there to like document an interesting thing. But I think he was drawn to just sort of the spirit of the work, which is like definitely a relatable conversation to this whole industry.
Sure.
And that led to like, I guess my first job, which was to go on tour with this band.
Paper Route.
Yeah. I think they're still around. But anyway, to your tying all the dots, like that initial project, you know, what ended up becoming my thesis project was a follow-up of some of the people that I met when shooting those original pictures. My grad school thesis project was about how like young people who were essentially like taken advantage of during that crisis were sort of like banding together and coming together in like a very grassroots way to like self-mobilize and improve their communities and sort of try to cross these like tribal conflict barriers that had existed for generations and like try to set the stage so that wouldn't happen again. So that was like the crux and the basis for my grad school project. That never would have happened if I hadn't like sat down and talked with Matt and been like, maybe I should do this and just do it. And then other projects since then, like I've done several like advocacy related trips to similar to that region of the world, just because of that sort of cascade of things that were all connected to that first trip.
I think this is a part that I think is really cool about what you do with advocacy specifically, because that, from what I can perceive, that seems like, I mean, I even watched like one of your ads you made for South Alabama hospital system. I don't know what it's called, and it even felt like you were. There felt like there was like an advocate personality even in that commercial I saw. It was like a doctor, you're trying to like advocate, or it was a doctor trying to say like why a client should get better work faster. So like you almost even were like advocating for, I guess that's what all advertisement is now that I'm thinking about it. But either way, like you're a good storyteller when it comes to advocacy. And one of the things that we talk about on the podcast a lot is how there's like these mixes, or there's these like kind of crossroads between art and, you know, something else. And obviously like your art expression is like photography, filmmaking, and your crossroad of it it seems like advocacy is like what gets you really, really excited and passionate. And that sounds like something that you're saying too. And so I'm curious, like what do you think it is about art and advocacy? Like, you know, you're highly skilled. You could be highly skilled and highly talented in making, taking great photos and making nice, like, and capturing moments at the Super Bowl. You know, like a lot of people do that. Like AP sends like probably 50 like photographers there. And I don't know how it works. You probably know how that works better than me. Or like, I don't know, Caleb takes photos of Christian's food. Like, you might do that too. But what do you think it is about that gets you so excited, with specifically pertaining to advocacy?
Yeah, good question. I think, I don't know. I think I just really enjoy, like, I do that other stuff to like pay the bills. It's just part of it. And advocacy, if you use that category, like projects pay too.
Sure.
It's different from like commercial for sure. But I think for me, it just sort of became, it wasn't something I sought out necessarily. I think just some of that early work that I did resonated with people in those spaces, because if you look at anyone who's like you know, on the communications team or like CEO or something of like a NGO, like their task is to help people care about what they're doing. Yeah. Right. They really have to do that if they're going to continue doing what they're doing. If nobody cared about their work, they wouldn't get any funding to do it.
Sure.
So I think like maybe what has subconsciously drawn me to that like type of work is that, like, I don't know, I just care deeply about like making things that feel real. Yeah. And if a person whose story is in all other respects totally unrelated to you can like tap into something in you where you can like feel yourself in them and like relate to them in some way, like that is the core objective, I think, of humanity. But if you sort of look at it in a practical sense from like the advocacy angle, that's what any organization needs to do for people to be bought into their mission. So you can spend all day making something look slick and pretty, but like if it doesn't feel like it's actual, people aren't going to buy it. And I think that's like sort of this weird sort of mysterious, hard to pin down objective. But if you can find a path to it, whatever it is, like that's a winning path, I think, in any form of like visual communication, be it advertising or like working for an NGO. It's like, and in the context of like advocacy, working with nonprofits, like it's really just about like bringing attention to something in a dignifying way that people can see the value in what that is, be it the person itself or like the work around that person that's being done. So I kind of am drawn to it because it's like it touches on like that interest in like just authentic storytelling, but it's also like abstract and like hard to pin down, and I feel like I like things like that. There's no formula for it other than maybe just time spent.
Yeah.
You've done some work too, for creating stories that are centered around people in the South, which I think is really cool. I resonated a lot with that, and that's some of the stuff that you shared that you're potentially working on in the future too. I think one of the coolest things for me, like going through some of that stuff that some of that work that you've created, was, I grew up in the South, and so like my cousins are farmers, and my granny grew up like selling worms at the feed store to like, the farmers who are going out fishing on the weekends or whatever. Like that's like the core of my family history, and people, generally speaking, kind of talk down on the South, I feel like, in the general cultural conversation. And I think a lot of the work that you've done is kind of highlighting the beauty of it, and also showing kind of the hardship of it at the same time. And I wonder, I guess the question I was trying to get around to is like, how do you tell someone else's story as best you can without infusing your own agenda into that story? Because to me, that's like the thing I appreciate most about your work is I don't know what you're trying to tell, but I'm learning the story of whoever it is that you're telling. So like I don't really know what you believe necessarily, because like all I'm hearing is the story of the community that you're telling, or the family that you're trying to tell their story. And I feel like a lot of journalism now is very people who are
agenda directed for sure.
People who are trying to tell stories are trying to infuse their perspective into someone else's story. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
So I was wondering, like, how do you approach that?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think like it's definitely on my mind, and like you're talking about this agriculture stuff that I shared with you. So like as a point of reference, well, first of all, I think you go into any story with an agenda or any project because it's interesting to you for a reason. And I think it's probably interesting to you for a reason because you have some opinion about it. What I think is important, though, is to like acknowledge and call for what it is, your opinion about it. Even if you believe really strongly in it, it's still your position on whatever that is. So when it comes to actually like doing work around like a topic that is like relevant to society or whatever, or a brand or anything like that, although less with advertising because you're obviously clearly selling something in that case.
Sure.
But with like doc work, I don't know, like I feel like I can smell from a mile away anytime anything's slanted that's coming at me.
Me too. And also like that, I don't like that work.
Right. And I think as a society, like people that consume media, we're only getting like more like sort of aware and literate about that, like conscious of that.
I think you're more optimistic in that than I am, Bob.
Really?
Yeah.
Maybe not. I mean,
I hope so though. Yeah.
But I think as that pertains to like somebody who's making things, that's like toxic to the projects.
Sure.
If it becomes like incredibly apparent in the way that I'm photographing something or leading questions in an interview or whatever, that I'm like bringing a huge agenda to the table, I think the conversation's over, because people who disagree with that are already going to disagree at that point and walk off. But even if I do have an agenda or I have at least an opinion about it, and I succeed in telling like an incredibly honest and true story about a person or community or a subject matter that is at its core, you can't argue with the validity of it because it's true and honest, and like the work itself is testament to that, then I think my opportunity to like get to that point of actual thoughtfulness with somebody who might have been on the exact opposite end of the spectrum to this conversation is so much higher, because the whole goal is to realize that like this guy or this whatever that I think I'm so different from is you're really not, you know, or this thing that you feel like you have, you know, you've just pegged this you know, insert whatever hot button issue or topic that, you know, if you think otherwise, obviously you're backwards or whatever. The world is so much more gray than that. And I think the quicker we can get to the understanding that like I'm more relatable to this person than I give credit, or this person's narrative is more like mine than I understand, is the best outcome in just about any conversation you could be having, or any story you could be trying to tell, or any topic you're wanting to discuss. So like I try very hard on like the doc world, that like that category of work that I'm doing, for it to not feel like some propaganda piece. But ideally anybody, and this is I think a mark of good work, like if literally anyone could sit down with that body of images or that film and be like touched by it, then as a medium it's winning.
It's
like
worth making.
You're successful in what you're doing. And I think like there's a connection there with, you know, the commission side of things too, and like the advertising world or whatever. I didn't like get into this world to like be doing commercial work, but like realistically that's how I like sustain what I do. And like I think the appetite and like the demand for that type of work in a commercial context is only growing, because there's so much stuff out there that feels contrived and like beating you over the head with some narrative, that anything that can tap into like can like further the objective of a brand in a way that feels almost like guerrilla stealthy is a huge win, you know, for companies.
Go ahead, Mars.
Well, I'm thinking through this like as we talk about it. I was wondering, maybe, do you think that things feel intentional? Do you think things feel biased in a certain direction if people come in with presumed answers to the problem, and maybe the way that you don't do that is that you leave it open-ended for like the consumer to infer? Like, do you think maybe that's? I'm just kind of thinking through what makes
I don't know that I would
feel
like
propaganda-y.
Yeah, I think in what I'm doing, I just feel less inclined to like end a project, or like for the end of a project to be, here's the clear answer to this very complex problem. I think I would be much more motivated just to like, here's a piece of art that is really good at encouraging dialogue. Go. You know, like that's more of a successful objective to me than, because I feel I definitely have opinions about things, but I'm not one to think that I'm right always. But there's nothing wrong if you have like a posture of like, I have opinions about this, but I'm still teachable. What do I still need to learn? Let's just go down deep into this rabbit hole, whatever it is. Like if that's your posture about it, even if you're just confirmed with what you already thought, I think it just doesn't help anybody if you're only creating something that only the people that agree with you already are going to watch. Like what's the point? But that is essentially like our media landscape today. So it's like,
exactly.
I totally see your comment about like maybe we're not becoming more literate in like our understanding of media. That might also be true, but
I just think it's so fascinating. Like when people get online, like I think this is true. Or like when people get online to watch a medium of content, whatever it is, short form content. The headspace, like the motive to get on Instagram is rarely pure, in my opinion. Like I think it's like, I don't think it's necessarily evil, but it's like the motivation would be like to escape or to not work. It would be to take a break. So whenever you get on Instagram and then you interact with like a real thing, it just feels like almost weird. I mean, I'm not on Instagram anymore, but that was like whenever that was kind of my experience. And I think one of the things that I love about like, you know, a 20-minute long or a 60-minute long short film is like there's a level of like buy into it where you can kind of like ease into it. Whereas sometimes whenever people will share with me like some sort of like very, let's say like stimulating ethical take from like a 60-second long video, I just don't necessarily know if I like respect someone's like sharing of that. Like I don't respect that as like a source or something like that. So I really do appreciate whenever it's done through different means. Like there's this one guy. Do you know who Andrew Callahan is? He's a kind of a
He's an independent journalist.
He has this, I don't know what it's called, organization called Channel 5 News. It's like
I've heard of that.
Yeah. And
he's funny.
I like
He's
love
really
that
funny.
guy. His latest video, Baltimore Streets, was amazing to me. I was just in Baltimore. Baltimore is definitely the worst city I've ever been to, and I love Baltimore so much more now because I watched this video. And because Baltimore, like you know, whenever you say Baltimore, like what's the culture of downtown Baltimore like? The only thing that comes to mind is like it's the most dangerous place in the world, and or at least that's what I've heard about it. And then he goes down there and interviews like the mayor of Baltimore is like a 28-year-old dude, and they're
crazy. I didn't know that.
Yeah, or he might not be actually 28, but he looks 28.
Yeah.
There's a unique dialect that's like starting up in Baltimore that's like a mixture of like English and like, I don't know, it's a weird thing. So he talked about that, and he talked about how there is a police force, like no one trusts the police there. That's why they take it into their own hands to murder people, because they don't trust their own means of justice. And he like taught, and Andrew didn't say that. Andrew put the mic in front of Baltimoreans who said that. And then he kind of just like showed that the mayor came up with this, like the mayor's from downtown Baltimore, from the streets, and like this guy started this one like police force that's not backed by anything. They don't get paid, but it's a bunch of ex-convicts, people that were incarcerated because of things they did on the streets. And they are the people that get sent to these calls. Like they don't send cops to places anymore. And then Andrew's like people went around and they were like, hey, would you ever call the cops? Like, you know, like the mayor said that. And then obviously everybody, when they hear the mayor say something, they're like, okay, bull crap. Like, no way. And then he goes out and like talks to people, like random people in the streets in Baltimore. He's like, if you were in trouble or somebody you knew were in trouble, like, would you call the cops? They were like, no, we'd call, like, it's some acronym like SWARM or something like that. They're like, no, we'd call SWARM. I can't remember what it is. But anyways, that's the last thing. But I think I like love Andrew Callahan more than any other. Like, I don't think he's a political figure, but I guess he is, more than any other journalist I've ever interacted with in my life, because like he goes to places and he doesn't say anything. He just asks questions, and you know he has like a political opinion or whatever. Everybody does, but he doesn't like share it. He just makes the people he's interviewing the main character, and then the observation is like up to you. And like there was one time Trump Jr. was doing a book signing at the Brookwood Mall at the Books A Million, and Andrew Callahan came with Channel 5 News. Have you watched that one before?
No.
You should watch it.
I've only seen like one or two things.
As a Birminghamian, it's one of the most fascinating videos. But these people are in this line to get the book signed by Trump Jr. And he's there to document the personality types of people who are like huge Trump supporters. And he goes up and interviews these people and just asks them questions like, what do you think about this? And the stuff they say is fascinating at the very least. And then it's crazy, dude. He was interviewing these people. He interviewed a family that I went to high school with their son. So it was like a wildly personal experience because obviously he's going to like Israel and stuff. Anyways, I'm talking about this other guy a lot right now. To go back to you, the reason I'm saying this is like that was something that I really experienced with your film, like Medina's story, because like you weren't even in the film at all. There wasn't even like a narrator. She was the only person that talked, from my understanding, the whole time, and it was unbelievable. Like the only experience I've ever had that's comparable to my experience watching that film is when I've gone to like Havana, Cuba, or I've gone to like Vinales, Cuba, or Haiti or Guatemala or Dominican Republic. Like I've gone on these like with this company called Filter of Hope. They like install water filters. I'm going on my like 7th trip with them this March. I like love them a lot. But we go down to these like rural communities all throughout Latin America, and we install water filters. And whenever you're in someone's like shack of a house and like you see them like have fun still, it's like this insane experience. And so anyways, I think I like loved that story. I wanted to kind of give you like time to talk about it. So I guess like, I mean, why, like what was that like for you? And also just in general, like if you wanted to tell our listeners right now, like what is Medina's story? How can they find it and watch it? I just kind of want to make it a little open-ended.
Yeah. I guess like broad brush, what is it first? So ironically, it's like connected back to that same story with Caleb. So it goes full circle. Like, I went on my own the first time to make these pictures. I guess that was 2018. So like right at like 10 or 11 years later, they reached out to me, and I had been making, short films and stuff at that point. Caleb knew that I was doing things like this, and either Caleb through his brother or Matt through Caleb, I can't really remember exactly the impetus of it, but they asked if I would be interested in going over with them as like a job this time to make a film. And Medina was one of like a small cast of characters from which we chose to tell a story. Basically, they, this organization is called Persecution Project, and they have been, they're, if you like look on their website, I think they say like working with marginalized communities. And they do a combination of humanitarian aid and like it's a Christian organization. So they do like supporting pastors and churches and stuff like that too in persecuted areas. But they're not exclusively working with like Christian communities. Like they're working with communities who are marginalized basically and supporting them in a whole handful of ways that are like really meaningful. Anyway, they've been doing this for some time, and they had just decided they wanted to have some film to help people understand what they do and why they do it. So I'll toot their horn for a minute because it's one of the only clients I've ever worked for that, and thank Caleb too for like sort of believing in me to recommend me for this project for them, but very explicitly came to the table just saying like, we don't know what to tell you to do, but here are some people doing incredible things. Was pretty much that conversation. Yeah. So from conversation number one, it was incredibly open-ended with like, what's the most impactful thing we could make here with this information that we just shared with you.
Wow, that's cool.
So Medina was one of a few people that were like in their network in these communities that they've been supporting. And, it could be a whole hour of talking, and I wouldn't be the one to do it, about like the geopolitical history of Sudan. At that time, this was 2018, but shortest version was, she was this young mother who her community, her country was being indiscriminately bombed and terrorized by their own government for years. And she was this very like sort of stoic voice of resistance and hope in this small community by teaching young kids how to, using song to teach kids how to respond to the bombing raids that were happening. So, that sort of act of her being like a mother who loves singing and uses her like gift for singing to communicate important things to kids who are at risk is like an important angle of the story. But she just, I recognized pretty right away like this as a character. She's like the most opportune reference to like the broader conflict and story as an innocent civilian who's like trying to just sort of exist in her country in a challenging time. So that's like how it came about. And, you know, the short version of the story, it's not like a sort of verite real time telling of the conflict, but with the help of this guy Yassine, who was like I had one guy who was like a videographer, video journalist who's Sudanese that like lived in that region and had like done his own reporting on the war, provided me with like some of his actual footage of like some of the conflict and stuff. And that like helped paint the picture of like what was going on at the time and in years prior. The part that I filmed was sort of the more intimate personal narrative of like Medina and her family and like what she's, how she's processing the trauma day to day and like how she's choosing to use the gift that she has to like be a small bit of resistance. And it's like beautiful how simple it is. It's just like teaching kids about like the beauty and like the strength of their people, and also like through song, but then also like down to brass tacks, legit, like you hear the Antonov coming, like you run to the bush. That's like the lyrics of the song. So she's like teaching them like how to protect themselves. Yeah. So it's like this, the simplicity of that gives me chills just thinking about it. Yeah. But it's like, I don't know, it's just incredibly beautiful. Like what she represents is like a strong, courageous civilian doing whatever she can. And like you take that, if you distill it to those simplest terms, and this is like the first layer of like story finding to me, like distill it to the simplest of terms, like that narrative is copy paste all over the world. Like same story, you know? So I think if you can like distill it to, and not even remote places, like in small ways, like it's a relatable experience, right? No, like here in Alabama, we can't relate to the experience of being bombed by our own government. But the way that she's like sort of digging deep inside of herself to do a brave, hard thing and be like a voice of like courage and resistance, like 100% relatable. So like when I got like the high level description from Brad, the executive director at the organization, like there's this woman, like she's probably might be interesting, somebody to talk to. I was like, we need to talk to her. But the logistics were complicated because it's so remote. Like we thought she would be there when we got there, but like we didn't really know. So there's a lot sort of left to chance.
When did you film it?
That was 2018.
I was kind of like taken back by. It's obviously incredibly rural, but they like I didn't see any technology at all in that village.
Yeah, and it's funny because I was there so it's December 25 right now. In May of 24, I went back to the exact same region for the same group to do another film about a different group of people. And it was interesting to see how in just 6 years, like some of those incredibly rural places had like changed a little bit.
Really?
Like Cauda, which is the town that is like the sort of de facto like capital of the Nuba Mountains, which is this like region that's like protected by the rebel group there's a lot there, but like the SPLA and the SPLM movement, like basically they've carved out this like autonomous region where they protect themselves, and Cauda is like the capital of that, and they now have like a what do you call it, Elon Musk's Starlink there. So like there's like a little internet cafe and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean I've traveled a fair amount and in like rural places. And that was like far and away the most rural I've ever been. Which is kind of cool. Like,
how long did it take? Like when you got off the plane, how hard was it to get to that town?
I mean, hard not, because like this organization has been working in this region for 30 years, and like they've got it dialed as best you can.
Yeah.
That said, it's hard because like the rainy season and stuff makes it, and just there's lack of infrastructure to get around. But none of this would have happened without them supporting it and like providing the transportation and all that. But so we, the simple, how did you get there? You take a flight on that particular trip, started in Nairobi, and then you fly to the far northern border to like a airstrip in a refugee camp.
Okay.
It's on the border, and then you get in vehicles and you cross the border without. You're not. Well, sorry, I skipped Juba. So you fly into Juba, South Sudan. Carefully with your equipment, because like you got to be not so obvious you're there to make a film. But they helped me with that. We went in backpacks and stuff in a way that was like not drawing attention. And then from Juba, you get on like a privately commissioned flight to this airstrip that's right there on the border. And then from there, you get in vehicles and you go from South Sudan into Sudan. Not through any port. You're just going through like dirt roads basically, because the refugee camp is just sort of situated. It's not a paved airstrip. It's like a dirt airstrip.
Yeah.
So there's not like, you're just kind of off road at that point.
Yeah.
But they had the vehicles to accommodate that. And then it's like a full day of driving from there.
Wow.
To get to that particular region. And you could go further. Like we went a little further on the most recent trip in 2024, like up further in to Sudan. But that particular region where Medina's song was filmed is a little closer to the southern border.
Okay.
It took a while.
Yeah.
A full day of driving.
But I didn't have to like coordinate any of that. Like their team is awesome. Like they've got like full-time Sudanese people that like are their logistical folks.
Yeah.
How do you, I think anyone who's been on any kind of missions trip or trip to a place like that relates with the question of like, what do I do now when I get back?
Yeah.
Like, how do you, I know that what you're doing while you're there partly is like trying to advocate for and help those people, but like, how do you wrestle with, living a normal American life when you know that other people live lives like that?
Yeah. It's complicated. I mean, I think it really like you do a trip like that a couple times, and hopefully pretty quickly like you turn on your head this idea that like I'm bringing something of immense value to these people. Like you are, because like in the case of PPF, they're like literally arriving with medicine or food or whatever. But like the like first world, third world sort of mindset gets upended. Like you can obviously relate to the like access to things side of it, like resources, like roads, healthcare,
Clean water,
like those are obvious. And like, yes, you come back like, man, just like like a sense of appreciation for those things for sure. But like going from like, life is good here, life is bad there, coming back to life is good here, like that narrative like falls apart pretty quick.
Yeah.
Because you see real quick how like resources does not equate to happiness or like quality of life. It definitely influences that. Like life can be really terrible without resources, but like you see an incredible amount of joy and like and I think what's funny about it is like, and I feel like the common conversation we are talking about a lot right now is like, in our society, we're so tech overloaded. Like the conversation is, how do we move back towards simpler living, right?
Yeah.
And it's interesting. You go to a part of the world where like, it's not simpler living, it's just living. Like that is the one option that you have. And it's like, I don't know, it's like beautiful to see that.
Yeah.
In some respects, you come back like, I don't know, when I'm working on a project like that, I come back incredibly conflicted in my feelings, because it's like there is the whiplash, like culture jarring aspect where like it just feels like we are so absurdly wasteful. We are so absurdly just like privileged little children in our society in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
But you get past that part that's just depressing, and then you're like, no, actually, I'm like really encouraged.
Yeah.
Because people are great. People are amazing.
Yeah.
And they're like as amazing over there as they are here.
Mm-hmm.
And like I think in a lot of ways it's like more on display in places where it's hard.
Yeah.
So it's like affirming, kind of like what draws me back to doing projects like that. Because I don't know, you like learn a lot from people who are going through hard things.
Yeah. That's so true. Well, I think like I don't know, in general that whole thing is just so encouraging that you can provide a space or a medium, like we keep using that word. You can provide a medium for people to experience that without having to go, you know. I hope that people still go. I think that as I am like thinking about this, I'm getting more and more excited. To be honest with you, this past week I was not that excited about going back to we're going to Santo Domingo. Well, I'm flying into Santo Domingo for Dominican Republic for this mission trip or for this water filter mission trip in March. But like I'm going an hour out into these little towns, and it is I don't know. I think at face value it can kind of feel like you're saying like life is good here or life is bad there. It's just not that simple though. And I think just providing a medium of that gets me excited to continue to be a part of advocacy, or just like trying to be a part of the world in general. And in general, like and it paints a picture back on this life too, where it's not like, you know, the struggles that we have here are valid and stuff, but they're just not that big of a deal in light of things, because like nothing is, you know.
I think it's all relative.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
It's like I think if we can just keep that mindset, like it also doesn't help to. I think just the ranking of things doesn't usually help.
Yeah.
You know, compare it harder, easier, better, worse.
Yeah.
I think the quicker we can get to just sort of a mutual understanding that we're like sort of living this shared experience together, the better. Because people here go through hard things too. You know, it's like in different forms. It could be totally unseen. But again, like that, like tapping into that sort of like core human story is sort of the bridge between all that.
Yeah.
So.
I love it. All right. Well, I mean, I think it's been literally so much fun getting to talk to you about all this kind of stuff. I think all of us can take away like a ton from thinking about how to apply these sorts of ideas to our life. But these sorts of like, I don't know, like applying whatever it may be, whatever you do. Because I think what you're saying with the, you know, you need to do commercial work for, you know, to sustain yourself, but also how are you kind of using your giftings for something that you're proud of or something that you're passionate about. So I guess if you had any encouragement, if you had any advice for people and how to do that in their own lives, what would you give them as we kind of wrap up here?
Man, that's a hard one. I mean, I think I don't know. There's no formulas, right? But I think one thing that's probably true is that like if there's something that you feel like really like drawn to, whatever that might be, and like you feel like you're sort of like coming alive in the doing of that thing, you're going to be making people around you better by doing that. So like there's literally no harm in diving in.
Yeah.
There might be like consequences to diving in. Like
sure.
You might like not make any money. You might like not, you know, be able to live here or there, or not have X, Y, or Z.
Yeah.
But like, I think like just don't be afraid to dive in.
Yeah.
And if you need to reassess in the future, you can do that. But like, at least you'll know you've jumped in, you know?
Yeah.
I think whatever that is, like try to move toward, it's hard, right? We're all trying to navigate, like, how do I earn a living? It's like our identity is like so freaking wound up in like our career paths in this society. And like, there's just a lot of like seeming pressure to do the right thing.
Yeah.
So particularly like as a young person, if you're like asking these questions of yourself, I think I needed to hear, and I more or less did from different influences, I think, like, don't be stagnant until you feel like you have the right answer. Just like, move toward what is sort of moving you, and like make educated decisions along the way. Yeah. And you'll, I mean, who knows where you'll end up, but you'll probably be moving in the direction that you're somewhat happy with. Yeah. And, you know, you bring something unique to the table. Be proud of that. Like, yeah,
that's cool. Yeah. What's moving you right now? What projects are you working on these days?
I mean, there's like work and life, right? Like life is like, and they're obviously overlapping. Just to sort of dovetail with like project conversation, like I've been spending very kind of quietly, like on my own for a few years, like working on like a longer form still photo essay about legacies in agriculture.
Cool.
Like how culturally we're sort of like adapting to like a post-agricultural society.
Yeah.
So like touching on that through a very like intimate personal story with a couple families.
That's cool.
So that's been fun creatively. You know, we have 4 kids, and like my wife's awesome. Like, it's been an interesting dance. Like, I really love what I do and like love working. As I get older, I'm finding like I also love just like not working too. I don't know. Like, I think I'm learning to not let the beautiful parts of just like family and relationships in life, like, it goes quick. So like don't let it slip away. Trying to like remember that more.
That's cool. Well, hey, where can people find you at? You need to pump yourself.
So, I mean, I do have an Instagram account. I'm not super active on it, but that's an easy way to like see some work occasionally.
At Bob Miller?
Bob Miller Studio.
Bob Miller Studio.
Website's so freaking old, man. But
it looks great for an old website.
Okay.
I'll say it.
So bobmiller.works is that one. And then like my email address is bob@bobmiller.studio.
I love that.
Or if as my wife Allison would say, I love myself at ilovemyself.com.
Love myself.
Which I think is hilarious.
That's so funny.
But and then like I work on First Avenue. I have a space down on First Avenue North and 24th Street. I'm like down there most days.
Love it. Well, you can literally find him at his office. We've never had somebody dox themselves in this. So I love it. Cool. Well, man, it's been a joy getting to talk to you about it. Getting to talk to you about this. I hope everyone listening is super encouraged knowing that there's somebody doing such cool freaking stuff here in Birmingham, Alabama. So, man, grateful to have you on. Thanks for being on.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you guys.
All right. As they say in the furniture business, cheers.
Love it. So long, guys. Thanks.